Chris Turhan. Welcome to another episode of Drinks from Eddie Muller's Noir Bar. Each week I take a chapter from the book Eddie Muller's Noir Bar, Cocktails Inspired by the World of Film Noir, and I talk about the film in that chapter and I make the drink associated with it. Today we are going to be looking at the film from 1956, A Kiss Before Dying, and we're going to be making the drink, a classic from the 70s, the Tequila Sunrise. Now, A Kiss Before Dying starred a very young Robert Wagner, very early in his career. It also stars Joanne Woodward. Very early on in the movie, like in the first few minutes, we find out that not only is Robert Wagner, he's a college student, not only is he dating Joanne Woodward, but he's also, what's the proper way of putting it from back then? She's in trouble. So she kind of wants him to marry her, get a job, they'll raise their kid, they'll be happy. He thinks that maybe, first of all, her father is very, very rich. So he doesn't want her to throw away what could be a very large fortune. He doesn't want it for himself, mind you. He just feels like he owes it to her. Robert Wagner has kind of basically deals with the problem the old-fashioned way. He's going to get rid of her, and that's basically what happens. There's a scene in the football field where he actually kind of pushes her down a set of stairs on some bleachers where they're talking. Unfortunately, it works better in the movies than it does in this movie, so she does not, spontaneously abort the child, so he's still stuck with the same problem. So he kind of ups his game by basically plotting a murder and making it look like a suicide. And for the most part, he gets away with it, but he has a plan. He's not going to give up on the father's fortune all that easy. It turns out Joanne Woodward has a sister played by Virginia Leith, and so he starts dating her so that he can use her to get to the father's fortune. So you gotta admire that type of stick-to-itiveness that he shows in this movie. He's a sociopath, but he's a committed sociopath. Eddie Muller says something about the film, says that a lot of people figure it doesn't really qualify as a film noir. It definitely does not have kind of the film noir look. It's shot in Technicolor. To be honest with you, the way it's shot, it's very bright colors. It almost looks like it's an old issue of Sunset magazine. Kind of like maybe this film was like commissioned by the Arizona Tourism Board, and they just went completely wrong with the story and the people and the whole idea of it. But the shots of Arizona are beautiful. So there you go. Has a good cast. Obviously, Robert Wagner is very good as a sociopath. Virginia Leith is good as her sister. George McCready plays the father. He's also good in it. Has a part for Jeffrey Hunter, who is a college student who had tutored Joanne Woodward and kind of felt like there was something wrong with the way she died. So he kind of takes it on himself to start trying to unravel what happened to her. And that's ultimately how it does unravel. Not my favorite film noir, but you gotta say, he's a sociopath, kind of in line with people like Uncle Charlie, Joseph Cotten in Shadow of a Doubt. I mean, he's like up there. And I gotta say, when the film finally hits the climax and Robert Wagner gets it, I gotta say I laughed. And it's not because it was funny, I laughed because it was awesome. And I could imagine in a crowded theater the theater would have just roared. So in that respect, I gotta say, it's maybe not my favorite film noir, maybe not the greatest movie ever made, but definitely worth watching. And I could imagine this being an absolute hoot with a whole group of people. So anyway, we are going to move on to the drink, the Tequila Sunrise. So, drink from the 70s was invented by a bartender in Sausalito. It was made famous by the Rolling Stones. They apparently had it there one time and they thought it was the greatest thing. They thought it was so good that they named their like 1973 tour after they called it the Cocaine and Tequila Sunrise Tour. Um, the 70s band The Eagles had a hit song with named Tequila Sunrise, and there was also a pretty decent neo noir made in the 80s with Mel Gibson and Kurt Russell called Tequila Sunrise. So that's probably worth checking out too. There's two versions of this drink. There is the traditional 70s one, which is the one most people know. There's also a vintage version, which would have been around at the time this movie was shot. But it's also very similar to El Diablo, which was also featured in the book. And I can kind of see why Eddie Muller might have thought, I think if I have to go with this, I think we've got a drink that's got a great name and a great reputation. And maybe the time period's a little bit off on it, but it's something that people know and people are going to expect it to be done a certain way. And then we've got another drink that hardly anybody ever knows about, and it's real similar to something we've already done, which probably is a little bit better. So I can see why he went that route with it. So anyway, we're going to take a short break, and I will come back and we will have the Tequila Sunrise. I hope you stick around for that. Thanks. And we are back. So, this is a build in the glass drink. You make it in a Collins glass. I'm actually stealing my wife's Lieutenant Uhura Star Trek Collins glass for this drink. We are going to start with 3 ounces of tequila. And I hope I have that much left in this bottle. There's an ounce and a half. And 3 ounces. And then the recipe calls for 4 ounces of fresh squeezed OJ. I'm not going to measure it. I'm just going to pour in the glass up until about full, which is probably going to be pretty close to that. Okay, we'll go about that high on it. And then we've got a 1/2 ounce of grenadine. And again, I'm using fresh grenadine, which is very easy to make. It's either equal parts of pomegranate juice and sugar. You heat up the pomegranate juice so that the sugar will go into the pomegranate juice and mix very well and become more of a syrup. I actually went with this with kind of a richer version of it, so I was using 1.5 parts sugar to pomegranate juice. Now, for the sunrise part of this, we're going to pour this over the spoon, so we kind of get this kind of layered sunrise effect. Now, for our garnish, we have a wedge of lemon and cherries, which there may or may not be enough room for. I think I'm going to take a drink first and then put it in. And we have the Tequila Sunrise. So now let's give it a shot. It's actually better than I remember it being. Probably because I'm using fresh squeezed orange juice. I've had it before. It seemed to be a drink that kind of drowned out the tequila with the grenadine and the orange juice, but I can actually taste the tequila here, and I like tequila, so that makes this a pretty decent drink. So, from a booth in the back of Eddie Muller's Noir Bar, we're going to say, what did they say? Did they say something in Mexico? I completely forgot what it was. Anyway, we're going to say cheers. Thanks. I hope you join me next time.